Let's welcome Piero Cipollone, member of the Executive Board of the European Central Bank. We'll be talking about the latest developments in the digital euro. 3 agreements were signed in April with the European standardization organizations, providing all the stakeholders with access to digital euro online payments. The ECB also further worked on its pilot project, which is to start in the second half of 2027, involving various stakeholders. Our first potential issuance in 2029. On the legislative process, we've already held debates on the draft report on amendments from Econ members in the previous committee meetings. We had political and technical exchanges with the shadow rapporteurs, which are currently ongoing in view of a consolidated text. And the vote on the draft report is going to happen on the 23rd of June. Today, Mr. Cipollone will be updating us on the ECB's work on the digital euro, building on the exchange we had with him in March. But first I'd like to welcome Piero, who's a frequent guest we have here.
So, dear Chair, honorable members of the Economic and Monetary Affairs Committee, ladies and gentlemen, it is a pleasure to be back. I am encouraged by the good progress being made on the single currency package, and I look forward to the European Parliament adopting its position. Today I will start by addressing the important issue of ensuring access to cash. I will then focus on 2 key objectives of the digital euro project, an update on these 2. The first is the agreement that we have signed with the European standard setting bodies, and the second one is the preparation that we are making for the pilot that we will start next year. Let me start with cash. Ensuring that people remain free to use cash is at the core of our work as a central bank. We therefore welcome the fact that the legislative proposal for the legal tender of cash and for the digital euro have been treated as a single package. This reinforces the notion that the euro cash and the digital euro are the same money. They just use different technologies. We strongly support the proposal on the legal tender of cash, as it safeguards its acceptance and availability, and finally aligns cash policies across the euro area. Our commitment to cash is also reflected in the ongoing redesign of euro banknotes. The new design will be based on either European culture or river and birds. We expect to have decided on the final theme by the end of this year. We are preparing to issue the first denomination of the new series of banknotes in the early 2030s. They will incorporate enhanced security feature and be produced using more sustainable materials and production methods. As I said, together, cash and the digital euro safeguard monetary sovereignty and freedom of choice when making payments. Turning now to the digital euro, let me say a few words about our work on standards. Standards are the language of technology, enabling payments card, phone, and terminals to communicate seamlessly. Just like a shared spoken language allows people to understand each other, standards ensure that payment system work smoothly, securely, and across borders. Today, Europe heavily depends on proprietary standards controlled by international card scheme. This limits scalability of European solutions as they are dependent on this non-European standard. The European solution needs to either pay for the use of these foreign standards or convince the merchant to use European standards that currently have limited reach. Both of these solutions are costly and inefficient. But the digital euro, thanks to its legal standard status, will provide uniform open standard across the euro area, ensuring that all payments card, phone and terminal speak the same European language that we have created and that we own ourselves. European providers will have the option to use this digital euro standard for free to support payments in commercial bank money made at merchants across the euro area. This is one clear example of how the digital euro complements and benefits private solutions. In May, we have signed a cooperation agreement with 3 European standard-setting organizations, thereby providing the market with early clarity on the standard that the digital euro will use, upon which private operators can already safely start to build their own solutions. The standards are being identified in close cooperation with market participants through the rulebook development group. This early clarity has immediate benefits in that it reduces the adaptation cost for the market and facilitates coordinated adoption. For instance, merchants have to periodically update their payment terminals, so they can already take this standard into account in their next upgrade cycles. Payment service provider can align development plans for their own payment solution accordingly. However, technical clarity alone is not enough. Only the co-legislator can provide legal certainty that this standard will apply across the euro area by establishing a digital euro that has legal tender status. Timely progress on the legislative framework is therefore essential. It will allow the benefit of this standard to materialize and European players to scale up even before the digital euro is issued, thereby contributing to our autonomy in payments. We are also preparing for piloting exercise. This exercise will use the infrastructure that we are developing, validate its functionality in real-world conditions, and allow us to collect feedback from all participants. In recent months, we have published supporting documentation and actively engaged with market participants interested in joining the pilot. In mid-May, we closed the call for application of interested. In May, we closed the call for expression of interest for PSP wishing to participate. We received more than 50 applications, which we are now evaluating. The application received show a good balance across business model, including small and large banks, acquiring and distributing PSP, and country coverage. We will announce which PSP have been selected in July with a view to start developing in the third quarter of this year. The pilot itself is expected to start in the second half of 2027. Let me conclude. On January 1st, 2027, we will mark the 25th anniversary of Euro banknotes and coins entering circulation. Finishing the trialogue and adopting the single currency package by then, including both the legal tender of cash and the digital euro file, would send a strong symbolic message that cash and the digital euro are two sides of the same coin. It would show how money we issue in Europe evolves so to maintain people's freedom to pay, be it with the physical cash or the digital euro. I look forward for your question now. Thank you.
Thank you. So question for EPP. Fernando Navarrete for 1.5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Cipollone. I would like to ask you a couple of questions regarding standards and interoperability. One in the digital euro domain, and you've spoken about, you've been more explicit about the open standards you announced the last time you were here. But there was also comments from this House telling the other way around. How is the ECB planning to reuse pre-existing European standards in order to reduce cost for the development of the whole digital euro project? So I want to ask you the other way around. So my second comment is also on interoperability, but in the wholesale space. We had this week the announcement by the Bank for International Settlements on the Agora project. And I'm going to ask you that basically shows that it's possible to have cross-border multi-currency settlement in central bank money, and I think it's a big development. And I would like to ask you, what is the ECB doing that its own projects, Agora and Pontes, are going to fulfill the criteria to be interoperable with other central banks might be designing in their own jurisdiction? Thank you very much.
Thank you for this question. So on the usage of a current standard, the standard we have adopted are market standards that are currently used in Europe. So we are not reinventing anything. We are just, we have been talking, and we have been talking with the market participants. As I said, these standards have been identified in the work of the Rulebook Development Group, which is a group where market participants are part of it, has been identified. Those have been identified as the most suitable solution. They have been already in use in Europe. The difference is not that the adoption is voluntary. In that case, will be instead mandatory for all merchants, and therefore this will provide an integrated solution. So we are reusing the standard that are already in place. As for the Agora, we welcome the news because, as you may know, we are part of the Agora. We are not outside the Agora. We are part of the Agora project. What has been done at this point in time there, we are together testing with the real-world transaction whether what you said is possible, and indeed we will be running this experiment in June. So the Agora is part of is embedded in our Appia solution, especially for the cross-border solution. So it's really integrated with what our thinking, and therefore we really hope that the project will work. As you know, instead, other jurisdictions are not participating. The central bank of our jurisdiction are not participating with the tokenized money, and this might be, hopefully will not be an impediment to a full success of the project. But let me repeat, Agora is an integral part of our project of our Agora, of our Appia project. Is the if you want, in a simple way, is the international part of the Appia Pontes integrated project.
Thank you. For the SND, Nikos Papandreou.
Welcome, Mr. Cipollone. Thanks for updating us on the progress so far from your side, and as our good rapporteur knows, we're progressing quite well on finishing the file. Things have been developed, the rule book's been developed, infrastructure provider selected, two-tier model confirmed, pilot design for 27, first issuance for 29. So I think the other part that's, I'm sure you can inform us on, is the awareness of the citizen about the digital euro. Right now, less than half know about it, which is something that makes sense. So I guess my question is, what's the ECB strategy to communicate the digital euro to European citizens, not as a technocratic instrument, but part of their lives? What preparations are in place? What's your timeline? And do you also envision a role for the PSPs, the interface with citizens? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for this question. Indeed, this is a central issue. So far, we discussed several times this issue, how much the ECB should be involved in the communication. So far, we have been kind of in a reactive mode. When asked, we explained, because it would have been completely inappropriate for us to go and, advertising a product that is not there and thus be not receiving the blessing of the co-legislator. But now that we see the light at the end of this tunnel, we are really planning on that. So what we will be doing in the coming months, we will probably call for what we will put forward a call for both creative ideas and implementation, and this will be a Eurosystem approach. So all central banks, including the ECB, will be together in doing this procurement project, and the first part of the project will be exactly on that. How do we communicate to citizens? We are not, the ECB is not expert on that, so we need, we will rely on market providers, sharing with them our own idea. Internally, we have been working on this, basic idea of, how the logo might look like, what kind of communication we want. So we have been working so far in preparation of that. But certainly, our intention is to have a first, if everything goes in the right way, we will have a first rollout in the communication in view of the pilot, the 2027 pilot, but certainly the full rollover will be in the 2028 in view of the launch. But definitely this is what, together with the technical preparation, the engine, this is a dimension that is occupying our time now. Really, this is at the center of our reflection.
Thank you. For PFP, Mireille Borras-Pavone.
Thank you, Mr. Cipollone. Thank you very much for your explanations. I'm speaking on behalf of Mr. Auk Silstra, Patriot South Rapporteur on this file. Basically, what he wants to say is that the European Parliament is now approaching the final stage of its work on the Digital Euro package, with the rapporteur aiming to bring the file to a vote before the summer recess. As you are aware, the EPP rapporteur has decided to side with the left on the most conscious issues. This concerns not only the bundling of the online and offline functionality, but also issues such as the compensation model and the safeguards accompanying the rollout of a digital euro. For instance, the Parliament position, unlike the Council's position, doesn't include exceptions for member states where transactions fees are very low, which means that digital euro transactions in these countries will be far more expensive than payments with card schemes. Another example is the issue of the pilot phase, where the EPP also decided to side with the left and refuse amendments from the right asking for additional safeguards for vulnerable users, including the elderly and the visually impaired, and rejected the suggestion to include the ethical hacking during the pilot phase in order to increase cybersecurity. By doing so, the European Parliament seems to put a speed of
Excuse me,
implementation
could you
before
ask
the
your
necessary
question? Could you
safeguards.
ask your...
Yeah, my question is
Please
going
hurry
on.
up.
What's the ECB view on this issue, especially regarding the national exception under the compensation model and additional cybersecurity and user protection safeguards, such as ethical hacking during the pilot phase? Thank you very much.
So, first of all, let me take this opportunity to really thank the rapporteur and all the shadow rapporteur for the work they've been doing. This is not an easy file. It has been a long journey. We all start from different positions, different views. But I think it's the essence of democracy to discuss and get to a common view for the good of, not for us, not to feed our ego, but for the good of the people that we represent in a way. Actually, you represent, I am a technocrat, in a way or another. So it's not a secret that we started from different positions, but through long, thorny discussion, I think the project is getting much better, more robust, more secure, because we have stress tested it in all this long discussion in the last 3 years. So my thanks to this committee, to the rapporteur, and to the shadow rapporteur. On the compensation model, this is a matter of legislator, and what we have been doing is trying to make sure that everyone can benefit from this project, and that's what we will keep doing in the coming months. Thank you.
Thank you. Ludo Todor for Renew.
Thank you. Thank you very much for coming again and discussing this very important issue. I also wanted to ask on 2 issues. The first one is actually on, even though we haven't finished this part, but I would like to know about some future prospects for the euro area, especially in the area of the wholesale digital euro, and also potentially using digital euro for, defining stable coins and other things. So how is this perimeter looking right now? And the second one, which has already been mentioned by colleagues, is the communication, because even in this house, sometimes we have to answer the same questions 5 or 6 times in a row. And I know that partially this is because also some of the citizens do not understand exactly what does the digital euro mean compared to a digital card payment with their own cards. So I also wanted to know whether is there any plan, you mentioned some of it, but also together with the industry, together with consumer organizations, to explain the people the devils which are in the details of the digital euro.
Thank you, Oda, for this question. Let me start for the wholesale. This is very important. It's extremely important. It's extremely important for one fundamental reason. We think that digital finance, tokenized finance, which means that assets being transformed from the current situation in which they are structural entry into the books of some entity to become physical files that people can exchange on a DLT. This would make huge, huge difference. Will make the market much faster, more efficient, will lower the cost for everyone to issue and to trade assets on the DLT. Will save money, will make possible solutions and services that today we don't know. So from the very beginning, we have been supporting of this. This is a journey we started in 2022, starting reflecting. Then, in 2024, we made this large trial, allow people to experiment with that, providing a cash leg. Why we enter in this space? Because we think the following. If we do not provide a cash leg to this transaction that is on the same ledger, 2 things can happen. Either the market will never develop because people will not want to run the risk to have as a settlement asset something that brings credit risk. So the market will never develop, and therefore we lose this opportunity, or the market will go for private solution, only private solution. We don't have anything against private, but only private solution in the form of stable coins. So we think that putting central bank money in this space will make the market not just more robust, because you have central bank money, which is the safest asset you can imagine, but because of the central bank money being available, this market will grow. And by growing, will increase the demand also for private solution, because today in the wholesale market, central bank money is not the only solution. There is also commercial bank money. So we want to reproduce the same structure in a different environment. So we think that there will be a constellation of solutions: central bank money, tokenized deposit, and possibly stable coins. As long as you have a menu of choice, let the market decide which means of payment, which solution is best. The fundamental issue is that everything has to be anchored in central bank money. That's what we are doing. This is the essence of the Appia project. It's not easy. It's not easy because there are many implications of that. I mean, think about doing monetary policy in the current environment versus an environment where money is on DLT. It's a completely different paradigm, and we need to understand. That's why we are taking a little bit of time to develop this whole concept. But the direction of trial is very clear. So in 20, we will start with a Ponte solution, a bridge solution, starting from September 2026, and move into this space by the end of 2028. On the communication, you are absolutely right. This is really at the center of a reflection, so we are designing now the approach. Certainly, a common communication with the market, especially merchant and PSP providers. If we speak the same language, if we send the same message, this will be much more efficient and reassure citizens that we are doing something important for them. On the one word of caution, I mean, this is difficult stuff, so it takes time to understand. I mean, if I think at the time, and I ask over and over the same question to my team, because it's complicated, it's very complicated. So don't be surprised if there is some uncertainty that people come and go on the same question. We need to be patient. We are doing really something that is transformational. And, if this takes a little bit of more time, let be it. The important thing is do it well.
Thank you. Now ESN, Siegbert von Drose.
Yeah, Madam Chair, we speak in German. Vielen Dank.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation, Mr. Cipollone. It's always nice to see you, and delighted to see how passionately you talk to us about the digital euro. I perhaps don't entirely share your passion for it, but in any case, I've got a couple of questions. First, on acceptance. The proposal for the digital euro puts obligatory acceptance in place for certain market players. How do you see that in relation to contractual freedom, specifically Article 133A? My second question relates to something else. Now, here particularly, I'm wondering what problems we're actually resolving by introducing the new digital euro here. We've already got quick, reliable transactions, and so here I'm just wondering what kind of problem it is we're actually trying to solve. As far as I see it, there isn't any problem. I mean, often people talk about independence from the US, people are very critical of MasterCard, for example. Why should the ECB, though, come up with a new digital currency rather than just negotiating better conditions with what we've already got? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for this for these questions. The mandatory acceptance is a concept that is associated to the legal tender. But I want to follow you on your reasoning, right? You say, what is the freedom, where is the contractual freedom? We are not imposing to anyone to accept something that they already don't do. As far as I know the legislation, but I might be wrong, we require to accept the digital euro only to those that are already accepting digital means of payments. So it would be strange that people accept certain solution, not the central bank, the central bank money and the legal tender. On the other hand, you could say, yes, there is the contractual freedom, but at the same time, you have also to wait for the freedom of people to pay with the money of the states, because that's what this legal tender means. On what problem we are trying to solve? Let me put it this way. And I want to make a point on freedom. Then we can discuss about the implication of this for resilience of the market, resilience of our payment system. I just want to remind you that there are 13 countries in the euro area where there are not even domestic solution, which means that if something happens to certain provider, these people will not be able to pay at all for. But my fundamental question is, today or 10 years ago, Europeans were free to pay with their central bank money. They could go around, basically do everything they wanted with the euro, with the banknotes. Today, this is not possible anymore, because at least 1/3 of our transaction goes online. So essentially, if we don't do anything on this space, we are restricting, let me stress this word, restricting the freedom of people to pay with the means of payment they choose to do. So we are not here to decide how people should pay. We are here to preserve the freedom of choice of Europeans, and freedom is a fundamental value which we hold dear and we all try to uphold. So what kind of problem are we trying to solve? At the highest level, we are trying to solve the problem of preserving people's freedom to choose how to pay.
Thank you. For EPP now, Ludek Niedermayer.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. Cipollone, to be again with us. So let me start with thanking my colleagues, because I believe that that work on digital euro is on the track. So let me ask you, because you know that Parliament wants to see the project to be started latest early 29. What can go wrong? Because this is highly demanding IT technological projects that can get difficulties. So what are, in your view, bottlenecks? And the second, let me continue with Ludo other question on wholesale digital euro, that is completely different animal. So what concrete steps will take place, and what's the interplay between possibly tokenized assets and existing target, that is RTGS system based on the central bank money? Thank you.
So what could be wrong? Could go wrong? Obviously, you know, you try to minimize the risk, and but things may happen. So the solution we have is to have some space, some ability to adjust. So far, everything is going very well. I mean, we are several months into the preparation of the project. Everything is working as a clock so far. And we have some buffer in case things could happen. One thing that could help is to gain some buffer in the rollout. I'm not asking, I'm just posing the problem. If we will be required to issue everything by day one, we will do. The margin to adjust at the, some things are lower than if we are allowed to, say, roll over the solution. I'm not asking, I'm just posing the problem since you pose. So a little bit of flexibility in the rollout would offer additional buffer that could be used in cases needed. But I'm not asking anything, I'm just saying. We have very good providers. The core of the system is being built by sophisticated national central bank that have a long experience in constructing that. But obviously, then you have to onboard thousands of banks, thousands of PSPs. We are working with them. We are, preparing the third-party provider. We are doing our best to make sure that everything goes well. So, let's keep the thing crossed and hopefully nothing will. Now, on the wholesale, there are two dimensions to that. If we really want to push this market, and we believe this is a good thing, we really also here we need a strong private-public partnership. Private sector need to believe in this. So far, we have around the world about 30 billion of assets tokenized. We hope that this market can develop. So private investors, they should start to play with this. They should need to try to explore useful use case where they can prudently go into and experiment the real advantage of this. But we can help the private sector in doing this, in reducing the risk. And we think that there are three things that can be done from the side of the public sector. Three things. First, the ECB need to be providing central bank money in tokenized form. And we are working on this. So far, everything is going well. Second, we need to provide some assurance, legal assurance. What is it a tokenized? Just to give you an example, what is it a tokenized deposit in Europe? We don't know. We need some, clarification and solid base. How this asset will be treated? Are we going to treat them along national lines and therefore fragmented again the market, or are we going to provide a European regulation? This is also very important. Third thing, definitely this market will take off if some member states will start to experimenting issuing their sovereign bonds on DLT. I know that there is some experiment going on in Europe. We should encourage that. This is extremely important because as far as I know, Europe is the only jurisdiction around the world that is thinking so holistically on this issue. We should not lose this opportunity and leverage this lead.
Thank you. José SND, Ronas Fernandez.
Muchas gracias, Chair.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. It's a pleasure to have you here, Mr. Cipollone. Thank you. So we could say that this is the final stretch of the parliamentary negotiations of the digital euro package. It really is the final stretch. And in the past, I've asked you for details on the digital euro regulation. But this time, I'd like to ask you on the questions on the legal tender regulation. Since the discussions began and since the project was launched, I have received so many comments from European citizens asked me to strengthen the role of cash in everyday life. Here in this building in the Parliament, there are shops where we cannot use cash to pay. And I think this is really kind of against the law. So if we want to get legitimacy for the digital euro, we've got to reassure citizens that they can continue paying in cash. And we're having a debate, and my group tabled a set of amendments in order to bolster the use of cash, to bolster it further than what is in the Commission package, because I think it's very important. So I'd like to know to what extent you think we can add to the Commission package, to what extent can we strengthen the role of cash in order for citizens to trust the process?
So I could not agree more. I mean, the ECB, I think the ECB has been very clear from the very beginning. We think that we should do the utmost to preserve the possibility to have cash as a means of payment in the economy. And as far as I know, in the opinion that we expressed, but also in the discussion, we have been among the most vocal in asking for reducing as much as possible the exception to acceptance of cash. Exactly because cash has several important implications. One is resilience, and we know that things can happen. Second, inclusiveness. People can pay, even the least educated people know how to pay with cash. It's a very natural way, so it's very important. Privacy. Taking into account all the IML consideration. So, we have been vocal on this. Now, there are two dimensions of this. One is the supply, the possibility to have access to cash. One is the possibility to pay with cash. We should look into the details and make sure that we work on both dimensions, on the accessibility of cash. And we are doing our part, producing new banknotes that are more robust and more relatable for people. There is also a role for the providers. And I know that member states have a different view on this and different... But again, I mean, whatever can be done to make sure that people preserve the possibility to pay with cash, we will support.
Thank you. Catchy eyes. Fabio Di Masi.
Thank you, Chair. It was quicker than I expected. Thank you, Mr. Cipollone. So I fully understand that the digital euro tries to mimic cash, like a kind of digital cash. However, you know that there are widespread concerns in our constituencies that it would contribute to drive out further physical cash. And we know that driving out physical cash entirely would, of course, make people more vulnerable to digital oligopolies. I noticed that in Austria there is an initiative of the Austrian National Bank that they also set up more ATMs in rural areas to guarantee the supply with physical cash in rural areas where commercial banks retreat. Would that be an initiative that the European Central Bank would, let's say, be supportive of more national central banks adopting such a complementary strategy?
As I said, right, there are several initiatives around around Europe to preserve the possibility of people to have access to cash. That is one. Another one is people payment service provider, banks pulling together to offer a local solution to have access to cash. There are initiatives where, for example, the cashback also is a possibility where you can withdraw cash from the merchants. So I don't know whether there is an optimal solution, but again, I think that's very important that private initiative to, for example, the post office is also another important access point for cash. And these are all welcome initiatives. We don't, again, I insist on this. We really think that cash is an important solution, and we would like and we welcome any initiative which preserve the role of cash. Obviously, everyone has to do the job. I mean, we cannot force the private sector to do something or other thing. Certainly, the legal tender status and the fact that we harmonize the way in which cash will be accepted in Europe is a clarity that will help to have cash. So, again, I mean, we have been, you know, from our side, I think we have done really whatever was in our remit to make sure that people had the possibility to preserve cash, and we also have, you know, been very vocal on this. So whatever initiative can be taken from the private sector to implement this, I think we can safely say that we support it.
Thank you. Any question? Non? Je me permets de vous poser une question. Peut-être deux questions.
I've got a question actually to put to you, Piero, if that's all right. Maybe a couple if I could. On the need to plan. I think often it's co-legislators that decide what we're doing here with digitalization, but can you give us some kind of simulation or idea of exactly what we would do just to operate, to use the digital euro? Would we have an app on our phone? How physically would it work? And then my other question relates to the payment and the private solutions that are going to be used to make it work. Is that going to be ready by 2027 when we're going to have the digital euro on our phones? Thanks.
So the way, thank you for this question. So the way we, I mean, the way originally we thought this could work, and we still hope that this will be a solution, is that there could be two ways for people to pay. Let me make the most simple. And either people can have a card like today, which is a digital euro card, and they can pay very much like today, or people can download through their PSP an app representing the app of the digital euro, which is the way, I mean, you would use it very much like any other app. Now, this app could be standalone or embedded into, say, the app of the bank. So you have your own bank, you open the app, and then you have different possibility to pay. Why we have been insisting on the importance of this app? For, I would say, three reasons, essentially. The first reason is the fact that is inclusiveness. We are designing this app, or we will design this app. Actually, there is already a group, a company that is working on that. We will design this app in a way that is has features that are much better than the one required by the legislation. We have a European accessibility requirements. We want to do much better than that, to take into account the difficulties that we have in part of our population. We are getting an aging society. People might be not completely techie savvy. So we want to design an app that will be catering also, that will be simple, user-friendly, to be able to cater for the needs also for these people. So inclusiveness is a very important issue. Second, resilience. You want to make sure that you have an alternative way to pay in case the private solution does not work. And I forgot the third reason. Oh yeah, obviously is the resilient part. Is the resilient part of the digital euro. Now, we opt, and we have been very clear asking to make mandatory for the PSP to provide this solution exactly for this reason that I mentioned. Also knowing the fact that this is not hugely costly for the banks to implement. In case this will not be mandatory, then the solution will be implemented by the banks. They will have an app through which they will allow you to pay through the digital euro. They need to provide you the same level of access. I forgot your second question.
On the rate of payment.
Oh.
Is it, are they going to be finalized in 2027? Or?
Now, the rate to pay, definitely, let me put it in this way. The acceptance network will be there because people will, as I was trying to say, right? We know the standard. From the moment that the legislation will be approved, everyone will know that what are the standards that need to be implemented at the terminal. Now, this terminal, 80% of this terminal can be updated through software. So you don't need to physically replace it. You can implement, you can update through software, and therefore it's not going to be very difficult. There is a 20% that probably need to be replaced, but those are the old ones. And this stuff has a cycle that lasts about 5 years. So we expect that from the moment in which we will have in place the legislation until the moment we will roll out, the natural cycle of substitution of the terminals will also cater for this. So we don't expect to be approvable. For the pilot, we will have the preliminary part of it. The part that we will implement in 2027 is what we call family and friends. So will be a restricted number of people. Essentially, these are the employee of the Eurosystem that will try, and we are preparing what we call the beta digital euro to be sure that we can roll out this.
Okay. Do you want to conclude?
Yeah, if there are no other questions.
Yeah.
So, no, I really want to take this opportunity to really thank the Econ committee, the chair, the rapporteur, the shadow rapporteur, because it's been a long journey. I understand, I realize that, as I said at the beginning, was not easy. This is really an important topic, was not easy. As I said many times, right? Money is trust. The debate we had for the last 3 years, I hope these debates are going to reinforce the trust of the citizen in what we are doing. This is really important. So I know how much work you have put in it. I know how many discussions you had. You turned all the possible stones, and I really thank you for that, because this, as I said, has made the project much more robust, much more resilient, and we have stress tested from the very beginning at the maximum extent we could do. So let me thank you once again, and but I hope that you will invite me anyway, even after the legislation is in place, so that I have the pleasure to update you about the evolution.
Merci, Piero Cipollone.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cipollone. Thank you very much for your regular presence here in this committee. It's extremely good for the issue of building trust. Thank you.